Hi everyone, Katarina here. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Just a couple of days ago, I shared a video in which I showed you my makes which I was commissioned to make for Creative Stamping Magazine issue 130 back in October. And I made these three lovely gift ideas, and in the video I mentioned that I will be very soon sharing a tutorial to the hanging picture frames, so that's what we are going to do today. But some of my lovely subscribers have asked me to make tutorials to the other makes as well, so keep your eyes peeled because I will be coming back in the next couple of weeks with the other two tutorials too. So this issue of the magazine came with the most wonderful floral stamp set designed by Phil from Sentimentally Yours, and it is these two stamps that I will be using today. I'm using my stamp positioner because I like to stamp this several times, applying less pressure and less ink on the stamps, but stamping a few times rather than stamping once and pressing down too hard on it, and sometimes the lines just wash together then. This is just my personal preference to do it this way. I use the VersaFine Onyx Back ink to do that, and I'm using Clear Gloss Wow embossing powder. For my make today, I'm going to repeat this process one more time, so I will have two of each stamped image. Now I'm going to start my video with coloring in with the Tricolor Spectrum Noir brush markers, which are my go-to ones these days. I just love these markers. Now I have to say I'm not some very experienced coloring artist at all, so if you do not want to see me coloring in these images, just skip the video till about the 4.5 minute-ish mark, and that way you will not have to watch me coloring in this image. I promise you I won't get offended at all. So in here I'm using all different color combinations from the set of the markers that I just showed you in the box earlier on. And these are different colors than the one I used on the make I sent into Creative Stamping. I used a lot of my Triblend markers in there, and I think this fuchsia or pinkish color from the brush markers as well. I was given a colorway to use for that make, and there's nothing wrong with it. I really love the color combinations in that. I just decided to do something different this time, mainly because I really enjoy using these brush markers now, and I wanted to do something just more colorful perhaps. So I'm going to add purples, pinks, a little bit of those oranges, and my favorite ones in this make is these teal colored ones, which is called the Deep Sea Blend. And at this point I was questioning myself, did I do right by adding a little bit of a turquoise in there? Why, honestly did. It just turned out so beautiful. And just two things that I would like to mention if you use these brush markers. First of all, once you put one layer of colors down, just wait and let it dry back a little bit, because you will see once it's properly set, the blend will be defined just so much more. It will turn out stunning, I promise you. The second thing is that you can mix and match the different Triblends with each other. So for example, with the purples, I added a little bit of pink, and with the pink and the orange, I added a little bit of yellow, and they do blend in beautifully as well. Once they dry back, it's just such a beautiful blend. Whichever color combinations I tried, they work together. So there definitely is room for a lot of experimental color blending, which I will be doing in upcoming videos as well. I don't feel too confident showing my coloring on screen because, as I said, I'm not very experienced. I'm kind of self-taught, and I really, it's only recently that I started to enjoy coloring on my makes at all, on or off camera. So this is definitely a different experience for me too, but I love using. I think these markers make it really, really easy. So in here I'm just adding some color to the leaves, and I used two different green blends, a darker one and a lighter one, just to differentiate between the different foliage in there. And I think these are turning out so beautiful. So I'm only coloring in this one image on camera, the other one underneath it, and the other two, one more of each, I will be doing off camera, because there really is no point me taking up your time, because it's basically the same thing. I'm using exactly the same colors and color combinations, and this is them all finished and fussy cut. So I set them aside until we start working on our frames. And the frame dies that I'm using are the squares nestables die set from Creative Craft Products. And it is the 7th and the 8th largest. Then I left 2 in and then I took the next 2 out again. If you don't have this die set, I will give you the measurement of each square that I used as we go along in here. So to cut my frames, I used craft cardstock, and the largest one there that I used was 5 and 7/8 of an inch in size, and the smallest one is 4 and a quarter of an inch. And then I took the 2 middle ones to cut out this frame, the white one, and this one's measures 5.5 and 4.5 inches. The next step to do would be to decorate the white frame. So I loaded that line, that splattery line, onto my acrylic block, and I'm using the Velvet Farm by Hunky Dory Prisma ink pad. You can use any brown ink pad that you like. This matched my colorway the most when I was making it for the Creative Stamping magazine. Now I am doing second and third generations of stamping onto the frame. You can see that I'm stamping off onto a piece of scrap paper in there, just because I don't want this to be too strong. I want the colors to show up, but I want the flowers to have that real nice strong color against the background in there. This way, with the second and third generations, these lines get much more closer to the color of the craft cardstock behind them. As you can see, I was stamping them diagonally, and off camera, once this is done, I'm going to repeat this 2 more times, because altogether we will need 3 frames. So 3 of the craft card frame and 3 of this stamped one as well. Now, before gluing these on top of each other, I want to add a piece of acetate, which you can't really see, but it is a square piece of acetate measuring I think it was like 5.25 by 5.25, just something that hides behind that white frame perfectly. And I've added some double-sided tape to attach the acetate to, and once the acetate is on it now, just as you can see now, I'm adding another layer of this double-sided red tape, because I trust this the most when I'm using acetate. So in here I'm lining it up as perfectly as I can against the craft cardstock, and there's the 3 of them ready. Now I'm using foam pads on 3 sides of this craft frame. The 4th will be the opening on the top, obviously, for our photos to slide in. I did pay attention that I used the same 3 sides on all the 3 frames for the foam pads, because I wanted the lines to go on the same direction on all 3, but that's again just personal preference. I'm just using a bit of a cornstarch on the sides of those foam pads, because I don't want the photo or the little note card that will be going inside to stick to the sides of this frame or to the foam pads. I hope that makes sense. I reinforced it with some liquid glue, and using the largest frame that I used for the craft frame, I cut out a plain square just of the same craft cardstock, and I attached it behind it. So I've done it 3 times again, and these will be my little squares to hold the frames in there. So I'm looking for the opening, which is on the top, and I'm arranging them underneath each other. When I say underneath, in here I'm going, of course, sideways, because this is the only way that I can fit it into my camera to show you. But I'm just looking for the opening again and make sure they are all facing upwards. You can see I added some double-sided tape already on the back of these, because I will be attaching some ribbon to these now, and because I'm using fabric, again, the red tape I feel is the best, the strongest one to hold those in place permanently. In here, I'm just using my lines on my grid mat to line them up perfectly, and I am leaving about an inch between each section, but this is personal preference. You can leave them longer or shorter. I was picking in here between 2 sets of ribbons. One of them, the thinner one, is off white, a little bit ivory. The other one was pure white, but it was too wide, I felt, for this one, so I decided to go with this satin ivory ribbon. And I have 2 pieces in here which measure, I think, 14 or 15 inches. Now you can see how I added double-sided tape on each side, because this is where I will be running my ribbon line on. Now of course you can use two pieces instead of one long one, just to attach the first to the second and the second to the third panel in there. But I just feel if it's going to be hanging and I want it to be more permanent for years to last, then I think this one will just hold it much better if I have just one piece of ribbon. But nevertheless, I will be reinforcing these a little bit more in a wee minute. I have cut out 3 more of those panels, just using the largest square die again. These will be covering up my ribbons in there, but I will want to add glue and tape in here to reinforce them. So I will be using my collal glue, but because I'm working on fabric, again, I trust the red liner tape a little bit more than a plain double-sided tape, so I'm using that. First of all, however, I want to add my little hanging bit, and this will be attached to the very top frame, so where the opening for the photo to slide in is on the very first frame. In here, I'm just playing about with it, just trying to see how wide or how narrow, how close those two I want to have to each other. And I think this looks quite okay, so I'm just going to be going with that. Again, applying a little bit of a double-sided tape at the back. And once I remove the backing, I'm going to fold one of the sides of those. So I just lay my ribbon flat, fold one side back, and then the same direction the other side. Now, if you're working with the double-sided ribbon, it really doesn't matter which way you're doing that. If only one side of your ribbon is shiny, like mine is in here, you just want to have a look where the shiny part goes on this one. So I've cut away the excess in there, and now I'm removing the double-sided tape, and I'm just going to add some more just whenever the fabric of the ribbon is in there, because I want this to last a long time. So if I only added my collal glue, although it is very strong, I do not trust that it would just always stay in place, or where the ribbon is, it might detach from the back panel. So I think it's just best to go for security this way, especially if you're going to gift this to someone, or if you want to sell anything like this, you do want this to be nice and sturdy. So once the first panel is done, I'm just going to repeat exactly the same process on the other 2 panels as well. And once that's done, it is time for my favorite part of this project, or any other project as well, decorating it. So in here, I'm just adding double-sided red liner tape again at the back of these images. And I'm using the red liner again because it is gonna go over acetate and I want it to stick very well. I will also be using some acrylic glue, and the one I have here today is the Nuvo one, just on those little bits, like a little foliage now. But make sure you don't add too much glue. Mine is a dry clear one, but I still don't want it to start oozing out onto the acetate. So I'm just very carefully adding a little amount, and then I'm going to tap the excess away with my finger as well, as you'll see here in a wee minute. So I'm just adding it wherever the red liner tape didn't reach to, and tapping it away. And now I'm going to glue it down in place. And I'm just going to follow exactly the same process for all the other ones. I'll show you this one in here. Again, double-sided red liner tape. And this one I got from Craft Stash. It came in a pack of 3. And if you're a VIP, I got this buy one, get one free package. So it was real good value. And the 3 in the packet are all of different width, which is really handy in crafting. I use all 3. So I'm going to do the other 2 just off camera in here. And once that's done, I just have to add some gemstones. And this took me the longest time to decide which colors to use. So the one that I sent into Creative Stamping Magazine, I used these dark pink ones on. And they go perfectly with this here. However, I had a little notion to try using the turquoise or teal colored instead. And tried the purple one, but it didn't work, and neither did the pearl, the orange pearl. So in here I was deliberating between the two, pink, turquoise, and I decided to go with the turquoise. They both went very well, giving a slightly different overall look to my frames, but I decided to go with the turquoise. So I'm using a large one and two of the medium size ones from Chloe's Creative Cards pin box. On the top and the bottom frame, I'm adding them in the corners opposite from those gorgeous floral arrangements. And in the middle frame, I'm just arranging them on top of each other on either side, going down vertically. Once this was done, it took me just as long to decide which color to use on each of those large flowers on the top and the bottom frame, and I decided to go with the pink. I thought it just lovely caught the eye and something different from the color of the turquoise ones. I felt those pink gems just finished off the large flowers perfectly. However, I thought it was still missing a little bit of something, so I decided to add a little bit of a crystalline in the middle of each flower. My personal preference would be to do this before attaching the floral arrangements onto the frame because it got quite a bit fiddly, but it's doable. It's just I didn't think I was going to use glitter because on the original frame I had used peach melba, which is a yellow one, but I didn't want to introduce any new colors in here because I used a lot more colors here on the flowers than on the original frame. But once it was ready, or I thought it was ready, I felt it was definitely missing a little bit of a glitter. So that's why I went with a crystalline, which is a translucent glitter. Once the glue behind it dries, it will be completely clear, and all we will be see is that subtle glittering on them. You will be able to see that at the close-up footage at the very end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was really nice to make something different from cards. I really hope you like this too. Please do let me know what is it that you're interested in watching in tutorials. What is it that you would like me to make, to show you how to make. I really would love to read your comments on this. I will be recording very soon the other two tutorials for the other two makes that were in the magazine, as I promised at the start of this video already. So please make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to make sure you get notified when I upload any new videos. I will be back very soon with lovely tutorials. I really hope to see you then. Bye!